Thank you. Thank you for showing up, guys. My name's Seth Perlstein, and I will be showing you SONAR 8. We're going to be looking at some plugins and features which deal with mixing and mastering. So if you like to mix and or master, please stick around. I promise it will be hopefully a lot of fun. We're going to jump in right away to one of our new plugins which ships with SONAR 8 Producer. We're going to jump into TS64, the Transient Shaper. And what we're going to do is tweak out an 808 kick sound. So what I'd like to do to start off is just play you guys a little drum track without the plugin. So let's have a listen. All right, so you can hear we've got that sort of 808 big boomy kick, but to me it's a little clicky. I kind of want to make it a little boomier, a little more bass heavy. And to do that, we're going to use the Transient Shaper, and we're going to tweak the attack and decay and some tone of the sound. So let's just jump right in and check it out. You can use the timbre control to tweak the tone of the attack, to tweak the decay of the attack, or excuse me, the decay of the sound. So let's go ahead and solo the sound. That's what it sounds like before. And here's what it sounds, or that's after. This is before. Here's before. And here is after. Boom, there we go. That's sounding a little bit better to me. So that's Transient Shaper, and here it is again in the mix. All right, so I think that 808 sound is headed in the right direction. Let's move on to the next plugin. We're going to stick with drums for now, and what we're going to look at is another new plugin in SONAR 8 Producer. This is called TL64. This is a tube leveling plugin, sort of a tube amp simulator, compressor, distortion unit, all combined into one. It's great on drums. So I'm just going to go ahead and tweak this and crunch it up for you guys. All right, so it's got a fair bit of tube distortion on there, but what's really cool about this particular tube plugin is we've got a dynamic response section. And what we can do with that is essentially use it as a high pass filter to filter out the low frequencies before they hit the tube distortion stage. So what that lets us do is have a nice, clean, buttery smooth low end with a sort of dirty, sort of compressed, tubey mid and top end. So here you can see without the dynamic response, the low end is really driving the tube, and it kind of just messes things up. If we filter that out, still sounds way smooth and fat on the low end, but those snares and hats are kind of crunchy and nasty and squashed together. So I'm liking that. That's good. Let's move on to the next aspect of our mix, which is stereo width. And I'm going to go ahead and show you another plugin called Channel Tools, and we're going to tweak the piano track. So let's go ahead and play that. We're going to solo that. So have a listen to the left-right stereo spread in this piano track here. Can you guys hear the difference in the left and right? We've got part of this piano. Okay, cool. All right, so what I'm going to do is load Channel Tools on here. So what we've done is we brought the left and the right side in, essentially. And we can go so far as to make it mono if we want to, or we can also maintain the stereo image, but make it a narrower stereo image. And so the whole point of that is if we've got other stuff going on in the far reaches of the stereo field, which we do, and I'm going to show you some vocal stuff here. Let's go back and make sure the vocals are rolling. Oh, there we go. Okay, cool. So we've got some vocal stuff going. We've got some vocal ad-libs going wide left and right. And before the Channel Tools plugin is activated, they're kind of fighting for space in the mix because that piano is so wide. So by narrowing it, we can really focus that piano more towards the center. I'm going to tweak it. Let's have a quick listen again. Cool, so that's a great way to manage the stereo image without losing power on either side. This is also a mid-side decoder. You can see up here we've got mid-side controls. Over here we can swap the phase of each channel independently, swap the stereo image. And of course we can also delay each side of the stereo image by a number of milliseconds or by a number of samples. So very comprehensive stereo image processor. So that's it for the new plugins. Let's move on to some new features. And next, we're going to look at something called the Insert Send Assistant, which is a wizard to help us create an aux track. And if I can find our snare, there we are. Let's find our snare track and use the Insert Send Assistant to put a reverb on an aux bus and send it from the snare. So you can see here we've got a dialog box, and rather than manually creating an aux send, manually inserting the effect, creating the effect send on the track, this allows us to do all that in one simple place. So we'll create a new stereo bus. We can go ahead and name it. Spelling errors. Let's call it snare verb. And we can patch the effect. In this case, we're going to choose the Lexicon Pantheon reverb. And of course, we can choose to bus the output of this send, of this aux bus rather, to any bus we want. We're going to choose drum bus in this case. So here it is. Here's our plugin. Here's our snare track with our aux send inserted and routed correctly. And here in our bus section, we've got our snare verb bus already created, plugin inserted, boom, real simple. Let's have a quick listen, and we can control the level of the reverb, of course. Cool, so real simple. We've got reverb on the snare now, real easy. One quick process, one quick wizard. Move on to something I think a little more fun than that, and this is side chaining. And what we're going to do is we're going to tame a pretty aggressive bass line. I'm going to move ahead to a different spot in the song. This is our bridge, and there's a real heavy synth bass line we've got going here. So let's check this out. Locked up a shot, serving time with some rocks, and the fam can't even afford a pine box. So I laced up my air one, started up to square one. Opportunity knocks, I've never been a scared one. Cool, so we can hear that bass line, real synth, rumbly, low, and it's just legato notes, extends from start to finish. But what I want to do is I want to use a gate, and I want to use a sidechain from the drum bus so that it pulses with the drum beat. So it's basically going to gate according to the drum sound. So we've got this gate loaded here. And let's get it all connected. And so what we're doing here is effectively doing this. So here it is without the sidechain gate. Cool, so that is a real creative use of sidechaining. You can use that on any kind of synth pads, you know, sidechain it from a vocal. There's all kinds of really cool tricks to that, and some more hardcore engineering stuff you can do as well with sidechaining. So that's a feature in Sonar Producer. And we're going to go back to some plugins now. We're going to look at Perfect Space. We've got an orchestra section here in the bridge. Let's go ahead and get rid of the vocals for you guys. So the orchestra sticks out a little bit more. So we've got some strings, some violins, some cellos going on. But I'd like to give it a little space, a little depth within the mix. So what we're going to do is check out Perfect Space, which is our convolution reverb. And we're going to open that on the orchestra bus. I'm going to choose a performance hall. Of course, this is an impulse from a real space for those of you who aren't familiar with convolution reverbs. What's cool about this plugin, we've got wet-dry control. Let's go ahead and solo the orchestra so it's real obvious. So we've got wet-dry control on the plugin. We can even pan the reverb. And we've got some more in-depth control as well. We've got an EQ. We can EQ the reverb. We can put a high-pass filter on the reverb, low pass. You can control the width. So we've got a lot of different options to sculpt the sound of just the reverb inside the plugin, which is nice. Don't have to fiddle with a lot of extra plugins. Of course, this ships with a whole bunch of different impulses, and you can import your own too. So this is Perfect Space, Convolution Reverb. Got another plugin to show you, Vintage Channel. And we are going to throw this on verse 2, the lead vocal. Let's go ahead and loop that section. So we've got this guy's vocals all sent to a bus here, and we've got Vintage Channel loaded. And for those of you who haven't seen Vintage Channel, what this is a virtual old school style channel strip. So it is designed to warm and color the sound, which is quite desirable in many instances. What it is 2 compressors, C1 and C2, 2 4-band EQs. We've got a gate, we've got a de-esser, and we can also change the routing. We can do filtered compression, we can do parallel compression inside the plugin, or just the standard instrument routing from start to finish. So real flexible, powerful sort of plugin. And so let's go ahead and play this track without the plugins. You can hear how it sounds before.
Bear witness to the struggle it is when champagne don't bubble or fizz. I know what trouble it is. Just to get up in the morning indeed and punch your pockets, we got mouths to feed. I plant 1,000 seeds.
All right, so that's a little bit muddy, sort of sitting back in the mix. Rather than just boosting the volume to make it louder, it's still going to have muddiness if we do that. Let's use the plug-in, the compression to help it pop out, the EQ to really help it stick out. So let's go ahead and turn it on and check it out.
And hopes of rain so the seeds will grow. Harvest fruit before the season snow. I'm trying to stack my wealth. The these dogs don't walk themselves like double L's. I'm trying to rock them bells.
So this is with it off.
Life or death from right to left. I'm in reverse, but I rehearse in steps.
And now with it.
Nasty struggle, I master the juggle. Machetes and blowtorches and fumble. I'm trying to get it in.
So, you can see that really helps the vocals stick out. You can use this on vocals, instruments, anything. It's fantastic plugin. Got a couple more plugins to show you before we move on to the end. Let's look at some mastering plugins here. And real quickly, I'm going to show you LP64, the EQ, and the multiband compressor. And these are linear phase plugins. They're designed for mastering. For those of you who don't know what linear phase means, it means that at the crossover points of the multiband compressor, there's not going to be any phase distortion, so there's no coloring to the sound, which in this case is good. When you're doing mastering, you want clean boosts and clean cuts. So this is actually quite the opposite from Vintage Channel. This is totally clean sounding. So let's check out the EQ. I'm just going to throw this on.
Bear witness to the struggle it is when champagne don't bubble or fizz. I know what trouble it is. Just to get up in the morning indeed and punch your clock 'cause we got mouths to feed. I plant 1,000 seeds and hopes of rain so the seeds will grow. Harvest fruit before the season snow. I'm trying to stack my wealth. 'Cause these dogs don't walk themselves like double L's. I'm trying to rock them bells.
So this is really something you're going to want to tweak with in the studio, do fine tuning, tweak the master mix. So best used in the studio. I give you a real brief overview of the multiband compressor, what it can do.
To the struggle it is when champagne don't bubble or fizz.
You do real quick stuff like telephone effects. Of course, if you're not familiar with multiband compressors, what they do is they split the frequency into several bands, in this case 5, and can compress individual bands separately. So with this, I think what we should do is go ahead and tame the highs a little bit. So. So it's a real easy way to take the harsh highs off the overall, say the edge of a mix, or even an individual bus or a track, something like that. And again, that's all linear phase. These crossover points here, there's going to be no phase distortion, no coloration of the sound. That's the multiband compressor. One last plugin to show you. We've got Boost 11 Peak Limiter. And this is a plugin which is designed to help us get the most volume out of our mix. And as you can see, it's a pretty simple interface, which means it's very easy to use. Over here, we've got input, We've got output. In the center here, we can see the amount of reduction, and I'll show you a few more cool things once we turn it on and get it going. So here's our mix without the peak limiter.
Plant 1,000 seeds in hopes of rain so the seeds will grow. Always free before the season snow. I'm trying to stack my wealth. Cause these dogs don't walk themselves like double L's. I'm trying to rock them bells. It's either heaven or hell, life or death from right.
So essentially it's just a real quick volume boost at the end of your mix. Real simple, real easy to use. What we're looking at here, what's really cool about the GUI is on the left side, we can see the input waveform of our audio. And those red peaks there you're seeing, that's the part of the waveform that's being chopped off by the limiter. Over here on the right side is the graphical representation of the resultant waveform after being limited. So we can really see what's going on. Up here, the yellow is the amount that's being reduced. So, you know, lots of visual feedback, real easy controls, input, output, off and on. Boost 11, peak limiter, good stuff, real simple. Get some good results out of that. So finally, before I take off here, we'd like to show you a little feature that demonstrates some of the performance enhancements that we've done in 8. We've done a lot of overhaul in the audio engine. There's much less CPU consumption in SONAR 8 versus previous versions. Osio driver performance is much better at low latency, and Vista performance has been enhanced. So just to give you guys an idea of what we have in this project, this is a 30-track project, 24 stereo tracks, 6 mono tracks, 69 plugins, including a bunch of convolution reverbs, those TL tube levelers, and TS64 transient shapers. Those are all convolution plugins, so using quite a bit of plugins in this project, as I'm sure most of you do at home. And what I'm going to do here is just let the project play and flip around the marker mode real quick, just to show you how we can move around fast without the audio engine dropping out.
Take it back. Take it back. Bear witness and take it back.
So you probably wouldn't do that in a studio environment, but we're just kind of flying around the project just to show you how it's performing. Oh, and by the way, this is running at 4.4 milliseconds in Windows Vista 64. So that's low latency performance in Vista. I got one more cool trick to show you. Let's put this into Vista Flipbook mode. Actually, let's play the project first before we do that. And let's just cycle through, see what happens. So no dropouts, no glitches, no stuttering whatsoever. Again, that's Vista 64. 4.4 milliseconds latency on our vStudio console, and that's the kind of performance you get out of SONAR 8. Again, I'm Seth Perlstein. Thank you for coming out.